Well, Lisa and David, we're learning his name, and his name, 46-year-old man from Boston who I-Team sources say was shot by a state trooper, and he's no stranger to law enforcement. In fact, in 2020, he was charged with attempting to kill Boston police officers. This is a photo bulletin that went out this morning in Boston. At about 12:30, Boston police officers attempted to do a well-being check at his home in Dorchester after his parole officer reported that he made suicidal statements. He was also allegedly seen on FaceTime with an assault rifle and said he would use it. The bulletin also mentioned his phone was pinging in Cambridge. Shortly after the bulletin went out, these videos of Brown were taken on Memorial Drive. He's seen walking down in the middle of the street, terrorizing drivers, waving and shooting a long gun. Charged in 2021, he was sentenced to 5 to 6 years in state prison, followed by probation, and was ordered to undergo mental health evaluations and treatment.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome once again to my channel, Stop Effing Killing. I'm your host, the MOD, also known as the Method of Delivery. Please like, share, and subscribe if you find anything that resonates with you. So, today we are going to talk about Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, as many of you are all aware, a suspect in Cambridge, Massachusetts here recently opened fire on the public with a rifle. Now, this suspect, who I will not name, has a history of violence and mental health going back to at least 2008. In 2008, he was convicted of distributing cocaine. Now, he was on probation for the cocaine distribution. And in 2014, he assaulted somebody with a deadly weapon. Now, he was on probation for this assault when in 2020, he tried to take the lives of Boston police officers. He got into a shootout with them and was shooting at them. Now, in that particular case, now let's look at this. This man was already a convicted felon. He got convicted of cocaine distribution. He assaulted somebody in 2014 with a deadly weapon. He was on probation for that assault. And in 2020, he tried to take the lives of multiple Boston police officers. And here we are in 2026. He was given a 5 to 6 year sentence for that assault against law enforcement, trying to take their lives. All this other violent stuff he did, and the Judge Janet Sanders, who is now retired, decided to give this individual 5 to 6 fucking years. And out of that 5 to 6 years that he was given with mental health treatment, he only served about 3.5 of those years for having already been on probation for a violent assault with a deadly weapon, for having already in 2020 trying to murder law enforcement, and you give this man 5 to 6 years. And now here in 2026, he gets a rifle. Who knows where the hell he got that from, because the United States is awash with too many fucking guns. And he just opens fire on the public. People who are driving down the street, minding their own business, he just opens fire on them. He wounded 2 people, and I truly hope that those people make it, you know. And I mean, he's traumatized their community. And then you have Judge Jack Lew, who is defending Judge Janet's actions, saying, oh, well, no one has a crystal ball and no one can predict the future. What the fuck more do you need? This man has a history of violence. He's a cocaine distributor, assaulting, individuals with a deadly weapon, trying to murder law enforcement. What more do you need? Now, prosecution tried to lock him up to give him at least 10 to 12 years. So if you're talking about 2020, then, theoretically he would have gotten out in 2032. And those people up in Boston would not be traumatized right now if this sorry ass judge, this Judge Janet Sanders, would have looked at what the hell this man had done. You're saying, oh, well, we sentenced him within guidelines. What about the public? See, the real problem with all of this stuff, the problem with these judges letting these goddamn people out of prison is that they don't have to worry about it because those aren't their neighbors. They'll never be their neighbors. They can't afford to stay in the $500,000 plus homes, the exclusive gated communities, a lot of times with private security. They can't afford to stay in those areas. So those judges, they let these individuals out. And whose neighbors are they? They're our neighbors. They're your neighbors. They're my neighbors. That is one of the reasons why it is important to vote. It's important to vote because when you see judges doing stuff like this, who are traumatizing, who are victimizing the communities that they're allegedly supposed to serve, you got to either get their asses out of office or never let them in there to begin with. This story has happened hundreds, if not millions of times over the history of this country, where people are being let out of prison who shouldn't be let out of prison. And the flip side of that is you have a lot of innocent people and people who've committed minor and petty crimes. They're still in prison to this day, waiting on, a trial, a sentencing, or hearing. In the meantime, you let this violent, evil bastard out of prison, so that he can shoot up the public. And this is the thing that I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about when I say that it doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're male, if you're female, if you're Democratic, if you're Republican, if you're Asian, if you're Hispanic, if you are Christian, a Catholic, or Muslim. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we band together and fight this type of fucking nonsense. It's already bad enough that our communities are overran with criminals and overran with guns and violence and racism and sexism and homophobia and all of these other things, religious bigotry. Our country is overran with these issues. We shouldn't allow our elected officials to let these criminals, like the individual who I will not name in this video, let them out of prison to do what they've been doing. It doesn't take a crystal ball to figure out if you're a violent, evil individual, more than likely you're going to continue to be a violent, evil individual. And you should not be let out of prison to make more victims and to make more headlines. Because in the end, there is no you and there is no me in this fight, in this struggle, in this battle, just to exist, just to live in this country. There's only we. And we must do everything that we can to stop the fucking killing. Thank you and have a safe day. And my heart goes out to all of those victims, not just in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but anywhere in this world of ours where there has been gratuitous, nonsensical violence.